Well, just because summer is almost here doesn't mean our kids won't stop doing sports or playing outside. But this heat can be fatal for children outside or if they're left in cars. So our friends with Safe Kids Central California are stressing the importance of hydration. Joining us now with more tips on keeping our kids safe this summer is Carlos Flores, with the trauma director with the Safe Kids Coalition there at Valley Children's Hospital. How are you, Carlos?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Got to start talking about this heat right now.
Yeah, it's nice outside today, but
yeah, it is, but it's
coming.
Quickly going to be here.
Right.
The difference between hyperthermia and hypothermia, I think a lot of people
hyperthermia is when the body is too hot. Hypothermia is when the body is too cold. So what we're talking about is hyperthermia. Now, that can happen in even in 80-degree weather like we're having now. So it's important for us to really start the conversation before the excessive heat gets here.
And you're saying that a child's internal temperature can warm up 3 to 5 times faster than adults.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's one of the things that gets them into trouble. They also have a much higher body water content than adults do. So they're really dependent on staying hydrated and staying cool. What we're talking about is when the body begins to get to the point where it really doesn't control the heat regulation very well, and especially if it gets upwards of 100, 105, 106, 107 degrees, which can be a fatal illness.
Now, a lot of us hear this and we think it's logical. Don't leave your kid inside the car when it's hot, but many deaths were from either playing inside of a car, getting trapped in unlocked cars, right?
That's right, yeah. And we had, last year we had just around 30 deaths in the United States related to that. That was actually an improvement over the previous year in 2013 when we had upwards of 49 deaths. Here locally, we did have 2 in the region. A couple of years ago, 1 in Madera, and then also 1 in Fresno, unfortunately. And then last year, we did have 1 in Bakersfield. Explain
to people just how quickly it can heat up.
Well, what you're seeing right now is a graphic that we use, is actually a demonstration that we do at the hospital and elsewhere. What you're seeing there is the lower temperature, the upper temperature, which I believe says 90.4 degrees or something to that effect, is the temperature, the ambient temperature on the outside of the car. The 180 degrees is actually the temperature that's on the inside of the car. That even surprised us. Yes, usually the temperature of the inside of the car will be 30 to 40 degrees hotter than the ambient temperature outside. So even on a day like today, if it's 80 degrees outside, the inside of the car is going to be 120 degrees.
And that says 98 degrees.
That's
and usually we can reach up to 107, 105 degrees here in town.
Easily,
so it's just going to get even worse than that.
And so that 180 degrees is easily can put anybody into trouble if they're sitting in that for a period of time.
All right, well then let's talk about some of the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. What's the difference, first of all?
Well, heat exhaustion is a precursor to heat stroke. So heat exhaustion happens first, leads into heat stroke. Heat stroke is what can become fatal. So the signs and symptoms, first of all, are the core body temperature is what rises up. But what you'll notice, first of all, is some perhaps nausea. Maybe the child has been vomiting a little bit. You'll also see a little bit of dizziness, maybe some confusion, maybe some fatigue that may be setting on. And then that could also lead on into other ailments such as pain, headache, muscle cramping, and then that proceeds on into other worse things such as seizure and then unconsciousness.
But this is interesting. You won't necessarily see them sweating.
Well, when heat exhaustion transfers into heat stroke, the sweating mechanism and the body thermal regulation, the mechanism by which the body controls its heat and coolness, shuts off, and so sweating actually stops.
Wow.
And so that's one of the last signs that you would see in a person who is in extreme danger.
All right. How about precautions? What kind of precautions should we take?
Stay hydrated, obviously. Just a couple of weekends ago, I was working a first aid booth at a local sporting event. It was a day-long event. It was one of the first days that we reached about 85 degrees. And towards the end of the event, which was about 7 hours into it, we had to stop the event because I had to call 3 ambulances for 3 separate kids that were having heat-related illness. So hydration is extremely important, especially if we have kids that are out perhaps in a sporting event that aren't highly conditioned for that event. So hydration the day before, the day of, before the event, during the event, after the event. And it's important to remember that every 20 minutes or so, our kids really need to be taking at least 10 gulps of water.
I'm glad you said that, and we're specific about that. Every 20 minutes, at least 10 gulps of water.
That's right.
And don't forget, obviously, never leave your child in a hot car. lock parked vehicles. This is a good one too because they like to play hide and go seek.
That's right, and I remember as a kid myself liking to play inside of the car, but don't allow them to play in or around vehicles. Many of the kids that did succumb to injury like this were actually playing inside of the car and found themselves trapped.
Oh God! And leave a reminder for yourself in case you are dropping a
cell phone or a cell phone or a briefcase. We're not supposed to be using our cell phone when we're driving anyway. So if we leave our cell phone next to the child in the car seat in the back, which is where they really should be, when we stop the vehicle at our destination, we'll be reminded to get our cell phone and then also remind us that the kids are there. And that may sound like a simple little thing, but you know what? A good number of these kids simply were forgotten in the back seat of the car, and unfortunately, a lot of those situations, they were all tragic, but those are particularly tragic.
All right, really quick scenario.
Sure.
I'm walking in the parking lot of a grocery store and I see a child in the car. What should I do?
Take an assessment. Is the child awake, alert? If they're crying, you may have time to call 911 and allow the authorities to get the child out. If you see that they're not responding to you, got to break open that car and get that child out. We did have several saves within the last couple of years.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah, so our
so
education has been getting out. Right.
Good, and they're more aware. So
Right.
call 911, and if in case anything, your child becomes sick, get them to a cool place. You say, undress the child, dampen the child's skin with cool or tepid water, and fan the child as well.
Yeah, while you're waiting for 911 to respond.
Okay.
So, and then also, if the child is awake and able to swallow without any problem, go ahead and give them cool, clear fluids.
This is interesting. Place ice packs
On the
to the in the underarms.
Right, and that's a more advanced kind of a thing, but if you notice that if you're highly suspicious that the child's body heat is too hot, and the armpits are certain arteries that travel along those ways, the wrists also, and also in the groin, that you could place ice packs in those areas, and it helps to cool the circulating blood.
That is good to know. Thank you, Carlos. And you can find more tips like these, which are wonderful to know, at kidsincars.org. A lot of kids in cars hyperthermia facts there, so please make it a point to go on this website and find out more before these horrible hot temperatures, I shouldn't say horrible, but these hot temperatures get to our area.
Right.
Carlos, thank you so much for
Always
being
a pleasure.
here.
We'll see you
All
next
right,
month.
we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So to come here in Central Valley today, we're going in the kitchen, whipping up a great recipe with leeks. So don't miss it. Plus, the Granville Home of Hope is around the corner, and we're going to take a look at one of the local organizations that will benefit from the proceeds. Stephanie has all the details coming up next.